Welcome to the Real Estate Secrets Podcast for healthcare professionals, hosted by Austin Hare and Nathan Palmer, who together have over 2 decades of real estate knowledge and investing.
All right. Hey, guys. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. I am here today with Sarah Varney and Christine Deal, and they are the CEOs of DSO Hygiene Excellence, and they have created an awesome product. So we wanted to get them on the show today and talk about dentistry, best dental practices in particular, and just see if we can provide any value to help you guys grow your business. So Sarah and Christine, how you guys doing?
Good.
Great. Thank you for having us, Austin.
Yeah, you're welcome. And you guys are out there in Chicago, right?
Yeah.
We are in the Midwest.
How's the weather? Nice and hot?
Actually, today's pretty cool. We had some heavy rains this morning and now it's nice.
Nice. Yeah, we're traveling through Texas today and it's like 100 degrees right now. So it's nice and hot here.
We had that last week, Austin.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's jump right into it. So why don't you talk about your story? Let's hear a little bit about your guys' background and how that kind of evolved into the company.
Well, Sarah and I have been working together for 30 years practically. We both went to the same hygiene school, and she started with Dr. Palmer as a dental assistant, and then I came on board as one of the hygienists, and then she went away to hygiene school and came back, and then we became quite the hygiene team in our office. And we have been clinically practicing for combined over 50 years, and we're still full-time clinical at the moment, and learning a lot, of course, through the COVID stuff. It's been a journey. And then we've done a couple projects together. We've really kind of mastered our hygiene department, so we've worked well together, and we've done a couple of different things. So we wanted to kind of up our game and take this to the next level. About 4 years ago, we got bought by a DSO, and we wanted to kind of bring our hygiene excellence to the DSO platform.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And let's go back a little bit further too. How did you guys get into dentistry, and like what led to that?
So my draw to dental hygiene was really, my first job was in dentistry. I was 15. My dad sprung it on me a few years before my birthday that I had to have a job to get my driver's license. So I opened the paper, and Dr. Palmer, who I work for now, I've been there 32 years, had to add in the paper for a high school girl. So I jumped in, and I've always been one to look to how to improve things. So I was kind of front desk, started assisting. I really wanted to contribute to a higher level with patient care, and really kind of in the business too, like make a bigger impact on the business and patient care. So I went to hygiene school and came back to Dr. Palmer after hygiene school and been there really ever since.
Okay, great. And Christine, what about you?
Yeah, I didn't really have any dental experience when I went to hygiene school, which actually was very exciting because I think I have a different perspective when I came in as a hygienist, not having ever worked in an office before. I definitely thought that I have a really good concept of team. It's just like it's a different experience when you've never been in an office and then all of a sudden you walk in as the hygienist. But I really love chemistry. I actually was like a chemistry major in college, and then I kind of was like, I didn't really know if I wanted to do that forever. And my mother was a nurse, and I knew I didn't want to work nights and weekends. So I had a girlfriend actually who was a hygienist who was like, you should be a hygienist. So that's kind of how that happened.
Great. Warm recommendation.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Well, for us being in the real estate business, commercial real estate, it's all about the numbers. And we're really focused on kind of helping people decide. It's called the retailization, right? And it's like a concept of shifting from office to retail so that they can help get more walk-by traffic, more drive-by traffic, and they're increasing their business through just a simple relocation. So we really like studying that type of thing and how a certain investment can play out and what kind of ROI you can expect on that investment. In our case, it has to do with relocation. But let's talk numbers with you guys. How much are you allowed to talk about your metrics that you look for, and how you can, like, how much you're allowed to disclose about how you could optimize a dental hygiene practice, like the hygiene practice within a dentist's office.
Yeah, I think the net is cast pretty wide in that conversation because metrics and dental hygiene's really not there. And there's some metrics, I think, that are out there as far as periodontal therapies. Are you doing enough SRPs? Are you doing enough fluorides, I guess, and maybe laser therapies? Those are most of the metrics that are kept right now. So I think what value our program brings and kind of the different slant to it is really more of the business aspect. Our program has pillars that are centered around leadership and teamwork and some diplomacy, but then the cornerstone of that to the metrics are some metrics in clinical excellence and metrics in business excellence, right? And those aren't looked at really at all in the hygiene space right now. Is your hygiene business profitable? And we're not looking at it right now from those business numbers. We're looking at it more from just the clinical side, right? So to kind of widen that landscape for hygienists to have some, I guess, exposure to, how is your hygiene business profitable and not just, are you doing enough SRPs? I think it creates a lot of accountability and interest for the hygienist to feel like you have a space at the table in that conversation from the business side, and that you have some power and control over the hygiene department to really develop it because you have a key mind on those business numbers in addition to the clinical excellence numbers. That's really patient care, right? It's best patient practices, best patient outcomes.
And I think that's part of the thing is we don't, as clinicians, know that much about the business side of it. And so really our goal with the program was to get these hygienists aware of what's the business side of this, what they need to be doing to improve that part of it, and also give the quality patient care.
Yeah.
Okay.
And those things go hand in hand. But the problem is that so many hygienists don't know their numbers. And so it's hard to make someone accountable for something they don't know.
This is kind of next level. It really comes along the line. For the DSO owners and leaders, is that how are you developing your hygienist? What kind of professional development are you doing? Are you creating someone who's really going to be a team player with you in making your practice profitable and driving best patient outcomes? And we don't learn that in hygiene school. Hygiene school, you just learn how to clean teeth.
Right.
Right. So part of what DSO Hygiene Excellence wants to do is to really create professional development for the hygienist, right, to take their practices next level from a business standpoint and from a clinical care standpoint.
So to develop their business within the practice in their hygiene department.
So what do you think is like the biggest pain point of the dentist when it comes down to their hygiene department? How would you summarize that in a couple sentences?
Yeah, we just launched a survey, so through SurveyMonkey. So we launched a survey out. We sent it to really all the DSO leaders that we could get contacts for, and hygienists. We've gotten back already about 150 surveys the past 2 weeks. So we have a really good pool. We had quite a few open-ended comments and questions for the DSO leaders, like what are their pain points, how they want to grow their hygiene departments, where are they struggling with growth, and I think
and a lot of it was accountability.
Mm-hmm.
That they just didn't think that the hygienists really looked at their hygiene departments as businesses, honestly, and that they weren't really accountable for doing that part of it. But I think I don't think a lot of people get their numbers, and that's part of the reason that it's hard to make somebody accountable for what they don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So I think it'd be helpful too if we could kind of go through like an imaginary example of maybe how somebody would be hurting or frustrated or have a pain point, and then what you could do like specifically to help them, overcome that pain point.
Yeah, I'll speak from the leader standpoint. So to answer your question, some of our survey questions, I'll just give you the straight like stats on it, and then I can talk about how it integrates into our program. Perfect. So one of our questions, was, do your hygienists feel accountability, within their practices? And 42% of DSO owners said no, their hygienists do not feel accountable in their practices, right? But again, we've not set up expectations for accountability. Really, all your hygienist believes she's accountable for really is checking it, clocking in, clocking out, seeing the patient on time, right? That's the only metrics we put in place in front of her. So we hear DSO leaders telling us right now that they almost half of them, they wish their hygienists were more accountable, but we've not given them any accountability metrics, right? So our program, putting those Kelly metrics in front of them for, again, business excellence and clinical excellence, solves that problem, right? We had comments that they don't see their hygienists as business leaders. We had comments, actually 75% of the DSO leaders surveyed said they would benefit from a systems-based hygiene program.
What based hygiene program?
A system-based hygiene program.
System-based, okay.
Yeah,
Right.
so if we had a system to put in front of them to really systemize the hygiene department, again, 75% said they would benefit from that.
So how much money do you think dentists are leaving on the table by not addressing this problem?
I would say, you know, on the scales, and we started tracking the metrics, and it was really just a clinical metric, so this is a very conservative estimate, but I would say our ROI, like I would say we had production increase at least 10 to 15%. Once we put together just the clinical excellence metrics and put them in front of hygienists and had them just start to be aware of what those benchmarks were, and then providing some educational background behind that, you know, for courses or free CEs or just sharing best practices. You know, that's the power of the DSO. That's really an untapped power in the hygiene department, is that it doesn't matter if you're an emerging DSO with 5 practices or if you have 30 practices, the untapped power is your hygienists collaborating, right?
Yeah.
What happens now in the DSO hygiene, well, the DSO space with hygienists is that they're all isolated. They're really not communicating and sharing best practices, and there's a wealth of knowledge there. So even just to create a space for the hygienists to start talking about, you know, verbiage and best practices and what are you doing?
What we do over here.
Yeah, how are you doing that? I mean, that mixed in with providing some educational content, mixed in with some just awareness of the metrics. I mean, to see a 10, 50% increase, that's pretty conservative, right?
Right.
Right. And then where are they doing their collaborating? Or is it like on a Facebook group, kind of like how you have DSO secrets and best practices and that sort of thing? Okay.
Closed Facebook.
Okay, cool. All right, very cool. So 10 to 15% is a good metric. So are there any similarities that you guys have noticed in the groups that you've worked with between like the best performing locations? Like, is there an ideal number of, you know, chairs or, you know what I mean? Anything that kind of stands out to you guys?
Yeah, I would say that I'm not sure about an ideal number of chairs. And I really think it comes down to your hygienist. And let's face it, hygiene is really the backbone of your practice, right? New patients are most likely feeding in through your hygiene department. One of our metrics for the clinical excellence is new patient numbers, because you really do want your hygienist to be promoting your practice. And you know, internal marketing,
reviews.
yeah, right. Internal referrals are your best source of marketing for new patients, right? It costs you nothing. You're going to get like-minded patients to someone already in your chair who values your practice. And wants to pay for what you're doing. So to have that metric for your hygienist and have her promoting your practice, that's huge. That's just knowing that metric and knowing that it's important, right, for the hygienist. I think having that person who's ready to do that person who understands that new patients are feeding through your hygiene department, understanding your reappoint number for hygiene services, that's people coming in, so you're not losing people to attrition, right? You don't want to get them in the door because they walked by or saw your sign and then they don't reappoint and become active, you know, lifetime members in your practice. So understanding their attention rate and rescheduling rate number from that standpoint, and just treatment presentation, right?
Sure.
Because 80% of your dental treatment is diagnosed in the hygiene chair. So if your hygiene department is not solid, from your hygienist asking for new patients, you know, really thinking about treatment presentation and reappointing people and keeping them in hygiene in your practice. I mean, I think those are probably more powerful components more than number of chairs. If you're not doing those key systems right.
Right. You can have 6
You know,
hygienists.
a lot of chairs
do a bunch of profies,
numbers
but
bad. You know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and so there's other important things to think about as far as capacity and what you should have staffed for your space. But
okay. And a second ago you mentioned benchmarks, which I think is great. Now, are any of the benchmarks that you guys use proprietary? Are you allowed to talk through some of the things that you look for?
I don't think they're proprietary.
No.
I think we spoke to quite a few of them. I mean, really for
Okay.
the clinical excellence, you know, I think it's a capacity thing to understand your what your patient base should be, right? From an adult prophy standpoint, how many patients are coming through your chair based upon the number of doctors and hygienists and number of patients in your practice. I mean, those are pretty standard. The new patients we spoke to, obviously there's periodontal codes that I think most people track. Those are pretty standard.
yeah. Fluorides.
adult fluorides, lasers, chemotherapy.
Laser,
I mean,
right. There's a lot of adjunct therapies too that we like to track.
I think the
Okay.
new patient and the treatment case presentation numbers are things that aren't done routinely that are powerful numbers to be tracking.
Okay. So of everything, like, if I'm for all the dentists that are listening out right now and going through this, what would be like the number one takeaway that you would recommend for them to start doing right now to increase their hygiene practice, their hygiene excellence, if you will?
Bring them to the table.
Yeah.
Empower them. I mean, your
Right.
hygienist really is a co-producer for you in the office. And as soon as you tap into that, and I can promise you, she's going to perform for you, or he, right?
And I think too, we have to make numbers more comfortable. Numbers shouldn't be punitive, but I think unfortunately they're used in that way a lot, and we need to change that mindset.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I agree. And it's a hard balance, because the delicacy of balancing business with healthcare is a fine line. And so personally, like I'm a business guy, I'm an entrepreneur, I've had several businesses, and my wife, she's a PA, she's a physician assistant. And so we come from two different worlds, right? And so I know that first and foremost, you got to care about the patients and you got to give them good care. And if you're cutting corners to make a profit, then you're just, A, it's unethical, but B, you're going to have problems on the line. And so obviously I think we're both in agreement, like giving them good care comes above all. But that being said, it's a lot of doctors can get stuck there, right? And then they fail to make good business decisions. And that's why I think your service that you're providing is so important.
Yeah, and you're right. I think what speaks to every hygienist is patient care, right?
Yeah.
And the excellence metrics are there because they are excellence in dental hygiene. Are you identifying risk factors for your patient? Are you mitigating risk factors with treatment that you can provide, right?
Yeah.
To increase patient outcomes. That's what's going to drive it for everybody.
Yeah.
And
Are you looking at their overall health
Yeah.
and their oral health together?
Yeah. And the profits are a result of that. I mean, obviously it's a business and needs to be profitable, and that's true. But I think the driver isn't the profits. The driver is, are you identifying risk factors? Are you creating relationships, right? Are you building trust? Are you, again, identifying what your patient needs and providing that in a way that your patient believes that you trust and care about them?
So let's talk about that for a second. So you mentioned developing trust and building patient relationships. Is that something that is scalable? Is that something that do you believe you can teach? And is it something that you guys are teaching with the program?
I don't know if we're actually teaching that per se. I think we all develop that with our patients over time. I mean, I don't think that's a skill. I guess in part of the leadership part of it, it is a leadership not only within your office, but leadership with your patient. I mean, you're the professional, you're the expert. So, excuse me. So it's really important that we do have that trust.
Yeah, I think it is in the leadership pillar from the standpoint of leading with empathy, right? And leading to listen, right? And leading to understand. We have patients in our chair and they are all coming into your chair for something. They all want something different, and to be empathetic to what that is, what's put them in your chair, what do they need from you. And that is a leadership component, definitely.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so how can someone get involved with you guys? Like if they're listening and they like what you're doing?
Our email is the best, yeah. I think emailing us at dsohygieneexcellence@gmail.com.
Okay, yeah, we'll put your email in the show notes then, so that way people can just click on that and ask you guys any more questions. So and just to kind of like summarize and wrap things up, I want to make sure that we have a clear understanding of what it is that you're offering. So it's pretty much it's a DSO for the hygienists instead of the actual dental the dentist, right? And so you're creating a platform for best practices on Facebook specifically, which is a great tool because a lot of professionals are using Facebook groups right now. What else do you want to add to that in order to explain some of the benefits of the program?
Yeah, and I think there's a few others that you haven't touched on yet, Austin. And the 5 pillars that we walked through with leadership and teamwork and diplomacy, and then the business excellence metrics and the clinical excellence metrics, they combine to really for our program, create someone who would consider to be a diplomat of our program. So if you go through the 5 trainings, become certified, you are then a DSO Hygiene Excellence diplomat. And I think that is something that can be a beacon for you and a pillar you can put on your resume, you can put on your LinkedIn page. I think it helps to hire and to become hired, right? So if I came to you and I am a DSO Hygiene Excellence diplomat and you own a DSO, I would think you'd want to hire me over some other hygienist who was not a diplomat from a DSO, because I'm coming to the table with these pillars, right? I'm coming to you
with this skill set.
Trained in leadership and teamwork, right? Which is important, and diplomacy and these business metrics and clinical metrics. So I think that would make
so that's a benefit.
As a owner, figure out who you want to hire and make you more hireable as a hygienist, right?
Right. So that would be one of the benefits to the hygienists.
Yes.
Makes them more hireable.
Yeah, I think professional development is a sticky term. A lot of times you'll read a DSO like you got professional development, but then what is that? Are we really elevating the profession? Are you elevating? Are you investing in your hygienist as a DSO leader? Are you investing in your hygienist? Are you really doing professional development for her beyond what she learned in hygiene school?
But I think it's a benefit for the DSO leader also, because if they know the numbers, if they know the patient best practices, if they know all those things, then it's a win for them, because then their hygiene department is going to be one of the top hygiene departments in their organization. So I do think that it's not just for the hygienist, it's a great tool for DSO leaders to elevate and promote their hygienists in a way to help with the bottom line, the ROI.
Yeah, it's true professional development for the DSO leaders. It's a true way to invest. I think DSO leaders do want to invest in their hygiene departments and their hygienists, and I think hygienists want to be invested in. You want to be hired by someone who seriously wants to elevate you as a professional, personally and professionally, to do more in their practice and to have more of a voice in that space. And I think that's
well, and one thing too, I think anytime we talk with DSO leaders, we always have to do a needs assessment. What is it that they need in the hygiene and their hygiene department? And once we can figure out the needs, then it's much easier to see, where our program fits into their needs.
And I think the final part of that is the Facebook page, like you said. A lot of times consultants will come in and they kind of come in and they do their thing and they walk out. We've been in dentistry 30 years and we've had a plethora of consultants come in and they sell their thing to you and you do their program while they're there in front of you, and maybe the next month and maybe the next month, and then it all kind of goes away, right? So with the DSO Hygiene Excellence diplomat training, once you're a diplomat, you're in a different closed Facebook group as really a community. So hopefully then you're internally driven to keep up best practices, right? And stay relevant and share ideas because you have your own community. So that lives beyond your consultant. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Okay. And so, right now we're seeing at the time of this filming, it's July, almost August, we're seeing a second rise in COVID cases. Mm-hmm. Okay. And it's obviously on everybody's mind, especially in the dental industry, because your faces are so close together. So what advice do you have for hygienists or even DSO leaders and how they can manage their hygienists during this time in regards to COVID?
Communication. And that's from the leadership to the hygiene team and hygiene team out to the patient as much as you can, right? It's that relationship and caring. Everyone's on a heightened level of kind of fear, especially when we get a second wave, right? And we're all back to stay-at-home order or stay-in-place orders. So definitely the leadership, communicating with the hygienist. As we started this national group, it was during COVID that we started, and really because we were having so many hygienists just on Facebook pages, not knowing what was going on. And they weren't hearing from leadership. They didn't know when they were gonna open back up. They didn't know what it was gonna look like. They, and their patients certainly didn't know either. We were lucky in our DSO that our leader was very communicative with us. We had calls every day. We were able to reach out to our patients. Christine and I both, just on our own dollar, called patients that we cared about. We made a couple of videos and sent them out through our demand force to our patients. Like, we're thinking about you. Again, that communication and just not having the unknowns there, I think is the number one.
And I have lots of friends who are hygienists, and I think that was their number one thing, even in small offices. They didn't hear from their doctor on a regular basis during the time off. And they were all kind of like, what's going on? I don't know what's going on. Do you have the PPE? Do you don't have the PPE? And we were very, very lucky. Dr. AJ was on a phone call with us every single day. And I have to say that really made me feel good. Like he was on top of it. You know, I think as a leader, you need to let everyone know you're on top of it. You're taking care of it. This is going to be fine. You know, I had every confidence when I went back to work that I had all the things I needed to have.
I want to expound on that with personal experience too, because before I sold my companies, you know, there's a tendency that we have as leaders to not want to be the bearer of bad news. We don't want to relay this information. To piggyback on what you're saying about communication is communicating the bad things too.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, that really got me personally through that time. I mean, I knew every morning at 8 o'clock I had a call, and he actually had some guests come on and give little talks and things about different stuff. And it was very educational. It was a very educational time that we used in those calls. And like I said, he just kept us updated on what was going on, how things were going, what the governor said, what people he talked to said. And it was really great. Because a lot of my friends were like, yeah, I have no idea when I'm going back to work. I don't know what we're doing. So, and we also went in, I know I went in before we started back, and we tried out our stuff, went all over the new protocols. I mean, you have to be comfortable, but I mean, I feel totally comfortable. I feel more safe at the office than I do at the Jewel.
Yeah, no, that's good. I love that. Yeah. I think, you know, understanding for everyone listening, understanding it's okay. Like, even if you have problems and you don't have solutions, it's still better to communicate that than it is to try and wait till you have a solution, because then, like your colleagues went through, they're just left in this period of uncertainty and ambiguity. And that's the last thing that you want.
And you're right. And to your point, it's being authentic, right? As a leader, I mean, the fears are out there, whether you speak them or not, everybody knows about it. So your job as leader is to bring it to the table, bring it to light, right? And you're right. You have to know the answers.
I think more people are afraid of the unknown. Yeah. And so just tell them.
and I think it's fine to say you don't know.
Right.
I think it's fine to say this. I think just being authentic and saying that you're working through, or you're looking for solutions, you're reaching out to people internationally or other DSOs, and you know, we're navigating through this, and we will navigate through this. We're taking it one day at a time. You know, I think that's powerful, just to know that let's face it, through COVID, if you knew how to navigate through a pandemic before that, good for you, because you didn't.
Right.
Right. Everyone was taking it one step at a time. Doesn't matter who you were. Every day was an unknown, and what was coming down the pipeline, nobody knew. Right. We were all blind going through that. Let's just say that we're carrying the torch, and we are gonna go through this. I think is just calming for everybody to hear.
Yeah.
And what do you guys see on the horizon in terms of patient flow? Has it been picking back up, or has it been
we're plateauing?
Okay.
We are swamped. We could probably work six days a week right now.
But I think it's part of that too. Like, we were communicating with our patients, and we had strong relationships with our patients before COVID, right? I think the practices that had strong relationships with their patients, that communicated well through COVID, I think they've rebounded probably almost completely. If you weren't doing those things well, you're probably having a hard time bringing patients back into your practice. So.
Well, that's good. It's good. Always good to hear some optimism and good news about the future.
Yeah.
I think we're back. I mean, patients need us. I mean, I know there's trepidation among patients, but sending out videos of what you're doing in the office, you know, walk through, showing people. We have people who come in because we sent the video, and like, well, you guys are doing all the stuff, so I felt comfortable coming here. And they need their care. They can't stay away forever, right?
Well, and then there was just a big review in one of the British medical journals that said people that had poor oral hygiene had worse COVID symptoms. So it's very important to make sure your oral hygiene right now is really up to par, so that should you ever get it, you don't have more severe symptoms.
Yeah, it's boosting your immune response, right? So if your oral hygiene is, you know, if you're stable, you're not fighting infection, then you're less likely, your immune response is going to be better. Yeah. And that makes sense, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, no, that's great. Okay, so it sounds like, you know, whether or not you are a dentist, dental hygienist, or you are a leader of a DSO, that it could make sense to reach out to you guys and get involved in your program. I mean, is that pretty accurate?
Yes,
for
no
sure.
one's too big or too small.
No.
Okay.
No, we need diplomats.
That's right.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, guys, thanks so much for your time today. It's been really insightful. We loved getting to hear what you guys had to say, and thanks for the advice and the words of optimism moving forward.
Yeah. Thank you, Austin.
Thank you, Austin.
That's great.
All right. Well, you guys have a great day, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.